Hello, class, and Professor Reister. Edwin Rutkowski here. I've been studying my practice runs, and I'm not sure if I look more like George Carlin or Rodney Dangerfield. Anyway, I'm going to do this in two parts. The first part is the 4 bullet points at the first part of the assignment, and the second part will be the 5 questions. Part 1. Bullet point 1 was to define our goals. My main goal is to feel more comfortable as a presenter. I'd like to be able to memorize key points in a speech and only use a very, very brief outline instead of reading a script. I also need to learn to be a good pitch person in my line of work. I'm a music guy, and so I'm constantly pitching songs, pitching ideas, or pitching myself. Second part, presentation and communication skills I currently possess. As far as presentations go, that's pretty much none. As a live performer, I've experience with that, so I'm going to have to try and transfer some of those skills over to being a presenter. I do have some experience in the corporate setting, in meetings, things like that, but not really as a presenter, more of an audience member. And I've seen my share of bad presentations. Next were strengths and weaknesses in terms of content, visual, story, and delivery. Visually, I've got experience in developing visual content for band websites and flyers, things like that. And I've got a pretty good sense of what looks good and what doesn't work visually. My weaknesses would be my verbal delivery and storytelling. I just can't shake the script. I do not have the gift of gab. I really have trouble with this. Action plan, the last bullet point. My action plan for the month is basically just to complete the assignments and really apply myself and apply what I've learned to my current situation. Part 2, questions. Question number 1, natural qualities and passions I hope to convey to others. Basically that I'm genuine, trustworthy, and credible, not incredible, and credible. I'm an intellectual and I have a sense of humor, and I'm very creative. My style, I really don't have a presentation style yet, but I would describe my general style as business casual. Not flashy, but not grungy. Question 2, what does it mean to resonate? In science of music, resonating means vibrating sympathetically or in sync with another source. The salt patterns on the steel plate in chapter 1 of Nancy's book were a perfect example. My other example is acoustic feedback, whether it's that high screech of a microphone that's too close to the speaker, or the singing quality of a lead guitar that's playing that high note that's feeding back by his amp. Those are good examples of resonations. How have I failed to resonate in the past? In this context, it's about connecting with the audience. As a musician and a performer, it's something my bandmates and I struggle with constantly. We're always trying to figure out how to spark an audience and rev them up. You know, it's not just good enough to play good music anymore. You have to have that X factor, and that seems to be missing. What can I learn to resonate? I'm going to have to spend extra time rereading and rewatching materials and taking good notes. There are no quizzes or projects like the other classes that force me to do the work and the research. I just have to apply myself and pay attention. Also, there's just no substitute for hours and hours of practice. Question 3, communicator that resonates the most with me. That was hard, but I'm going to pick President Obama. I like his style. He seems really comfortable. I like the fact that he's an intellectual and he has a high understanding of what he's talking about. Even though he may use a teleprompter, which is kind of against the rules, but you can tell he knows his stuff, whether you agree with him or not. Question 4, the difference between selfish approach and audience-centered. Selfish approach assumes the audience is interested in the details or history of the person that's actually giving the presentation. The audience-centered approach focuses on people who are to be moved by the presentation and how to focus on their perspective. The second part of that question was, what am I planning to do this month to move away from selfish presentation? I'm going to apply a lot of the rules I learned in my last class, which was Excel and data reporting. We learned about presentation Zen, which is how to do more with less. Whether it's a solo video presentation or an enhanced podcast, the principles still apply. Applying the technique of storytelling is another lesson I'd have to try to learn as well. Question 5. Which leg of the presentation stool are you strongest in? I'm strongest in creating visual story leg. Thanks to a lot of my classwork here at Full Sail, I've gotten really good at putting together great graphics for enhanced podcasts. Second would be the overall message. It's one of the hardest things to do, but you have to do it first and you have to do it right. Once you have the message or the concept, the rest tends to fall into place. I would guess I am worst at the delivery. You would think a musician with my experience would be comfortable speaking like this, but even thinking about giving these speeches gives me some pretty good stage fright. I think I can overcome this by learning to rehearse a speech the same way I rehearse a musical number. You just have to put in the hours and hours of practice. Okay, thanks for watching. Talk soon.